Novel AI's text adventure mode is just one of the many ways you can use the AI to aid you in story making, aside from storyteller and instruct. They all have their benefits, downsides, but the adventure mode might be more comfortable for someone who uses AI Dungeon or any other input-based model to do their story making. So let's open up a new story and see how that works out, alright? On a new story screen here, we can pick text adventure, and there we go. We're instantly straight into a fully set up text adventure. But if we wanted to, for say, take our old, Martian story and turn it into one text adventure, there you go. You might notice that it doesn't have the same, down there, the buttons for do, say, and enter, which I think is really cool. Sometimes I'll just have it down there just to write in. But other than that, that is because we are in storyteller mode on this right now. So if we switch it to text adventure, there you go. Now, even an old story that you have will now have the, I don't know what you call it, action block, maybe. That's basically what it is. You input actions, and then they come out. Works really well with the text adventure mode, so keep that in mind though if you are trying to convert an old one to this. But as for the new one, this gives you a few different options and ways that you can use or interact with the AI. You have the do and the say, and if you've played AI Dungeon or used AI Dungeon, then you probably knows what these do. These are second person actions that can change what your character does, right? These are like directly your character does or says one or two things, you know what I mean? Now then, as I've said, this is going to be more for second person. So you did this, you say that, right? So let's make a story that is in that, person, I suppose. In second person. It just occurred to me that the prompt is all the way down here. I did not notice that before. But no difference. I'm sure you can just start with an action, but it's going to be hard to, sort of think action first without a wee bit of story going. I would still recommend some kind of prompt to get you going instead of just your first prompt being an action, because then you don't know what character it's going to be, the AI doesn't know what character it's going to be, and it's just going to throw something out there, and that's fine if you want to check and see what it gives you, but you can always, give it something to work with and make it a bit better. As you can see, I mean, it did give us a name. Sir Nolda isn't the best name, but we can work with it. From here on, you can input actions and say things in character as Sir Nolda from here using these two. Just input it, add it. I would say almost you don't have to use the action block for every single input that you want to do, you can still use just the editing. Maybe it's just me. I'm a bit biased. I love the editing in Novel AI. It's smooth, it's well polished, easy to use compared to some of the other things that I've tried. So if it suits your fancy, if editing suits your fancy, I would just use Storyteller. Straight up editing, no blocks. But if you would rather, have this, there you go. It's another way to do it. And let's see what shenanigans we can get into whenever we let it stroll. Of course, I'm going to be editing it to my liking, but you can see how you can put together a text adventure story in no time at all. Here we have, I'm just gonna change some of the presets to get a bit more akin to what I like. You don't have to. If you like Carefree, that's fine. You can also try different models. If they suit your fancy, try working with them. Of course, Kyra and Cleo are the recommended ones, but even Utropy has its uses sometimes. After a quick new line phrase bias, I can now don't have to worry about editing some of the spaces away. All right, I would say that we have a good working, somewhat story where we can still lead it and bend it to our will. Clearly, it sort of came to me as it was being built, right? That's generally what happens when I'm working along with these things. You sort of flesh it out as you go. This young knight might be having some sort of PTSD from the war. A, a lost lover is contacting him in his dreams, or something like that. And there is a call to action to go out there and find whatever she's talking about, right? But all of this came from simple beginnings of just a knight who has returned from the war. Now, as you can see here at the end, I did start going back into my ways of more storyteller editing. That's just the way that I'm comfortable with it. And it is kind of hard to describe what you, at least for me, it's kind of hard to describe what you want to happen sometimes with the action blocks, especially if it's less character reliant, you know what I mean? Such a complex story might not be the kind that you would want to do a text adventure for. I think they've been great for me, at least whenever you just want to be a character and then like just have a little adventure. Not so much for the complex ones like this, right? Like maybe you just want to play as an orc and rob a village, be like an orc chieftain, and maybe you have a few companions, you speak to them, you go around, you smash up villages, and that's about it, right? Something simple. As you can see here, I went a little too complex, and it got hard to describe little actions for my character. And so at this point, I would probably just switch over to storyteller. Once again, these are tools. You don't have to use all of them in every situation, and they're not gospel. You can switch them out as you see fit. Now then, Novel AI does have some extra features baked into their text adventure mode here. We can see them in the documentation and read a little bit about it. There are things called advanced inputs. Inputting these little characters will give you some neat little effects and things, just to spice it up. These are called, these are wild cards. These down here, special actions. Let's see what we can do with them. Maybe we can input a few. As you can see, the special inputs are definitely more for a... I guess it is just called a text adventure. I really didn't do a text adventure here. I would say I did more of a story style, which is probably why it went so wrong. But let's see if it works. If we just input an I, or what did it say to do? Sorry. Are we in the? We're not in the do mode. Okay, that is why. Sorry for not reading that all there. Okay, so our boy probably has enchanted items on him, as it says, but as you can tell at this point, I've done a completely not normal text adventure, but they do work, especially in the do mode. Let's check out some of these other ones. As you can see though, they do still work. even with a very complex input like that. I mean, it's not too complex, but you know, it moves the story along in the correct way. It doesn't exactly mess it up just because it's a weird input that isn't like run, jump, shoot, you know? One thing that I would like, so that I didn't have to switch between like editing up top, is the story input thing that AI Dungeon actually does have. I think they used to have the story input, where it would just, instead of inputting a character or just do and say, it would actually have a spot where you could just add on to the end of the story in a non-character input. Basically, from here on, you just have to workshop and sort of work with the story, and you'll eventually get what the narrative is along the way. Oh, wait, there is. Sorry. As you can tell, I'm not too, like, used to the writing here in text adventure. As I said, I'm more of a storyteller guy myself. Makes it a whole lot easier. But as you can see, there you go. Just the exclamation point will, you know, input it straight in. So it's very versatile. Anyways, guys, Novel AI's text adventure mode has some useful points to it, especially if you're doing this style of story. My style of story is, you know, not this. I tend to write more story like, but if you are that type and you just want a action packed, you know, do this thing, a very input driven story where you're just going about and doing things, then you'll definitely have a fun time with this. And do not forget to check out the Novel AI documentation. They do a great job of explaining the special modes and special ways that you can use it. And basically, that's it. Have a good one. Goodbye.